My name is Sam Meldon. I'm the Director of External Affairs and Communications here at TARTA, and I'm simply here to serve as a facilitator and keep some order here. So a couple of housekeeping items in our spring service change Title VI meeting, the virtual version. First of all, we have a meeting evaluation that will be sent out to anyone who registered. This will be recorded and posted. So that's a nice benefit of having a virtual option and recording this session. If anyone has any questions, please utilize the Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen here. I'll keep an eye on the chat as well, and we can revisit those, or not revisit, we will visit those at the end of the meeting. I think those are my housekeeping items. Now, as I said, my job is to get out of the way and hand it over to Neil and Sean. Sean serves as the Development and Equity Officer here at TARTA, and Neil is working with our Service Development team. Neil, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Sam. And good morning, Toledo people and surroundings, of course. Can I just get a confirmation that the proposed service changes presentation is visible?
I can see it, Neil.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so thank you for being here. And yeah, what we're going through is some proposed service changes we have on deck for spring of 2023. So if approved, these would take effect at the end of March, beginning of April of next year. And here we are doing our community outreach, making sure everybody has a chance to see what's proposed, give us some input, and understand where these proposed changes are coming from. Okay, we'll give you some background. As you may recall, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, voters in Lucas County approved issue 12. So that changed the world for TARTA. That means there's a lot of new places that we can start serving that we haven't been able to previously. Of course, there's the ongoing recovery from the pandemic, and we've already made some changes and improvements since the days when buses were only running once every hour and a half in 2020. We've come a long way since then, and that continues to rebuild. And in October, the TARTA board adopted TARTA Next, which is a 10-year framework to improve and streamline and modernize the system. So those are some of the inputs that go into this package of service change proposals. So far, over the past year and a half, you've probably seen some things start to happen. Of course, in spring of 2022, this year, we added Sunday service. We've been improving frequencies little by little to rebuild from the reduced service of the pandemic, and we've even added some frequency at nights and weekends elsewhere in the system. And starting in January, coming up in just a couple weeks, we're going to be piloting a microtransit flexible service in parts of the service area. So these are things that are already happening alongside or even before these proposed fixed route service changes. A little more background on TARTA Next. A lot of the changes proposed here are rooted in TARTA Next. And this is a project that we had underway for the last year and a half or so to really analyze the TARTA services and make sure they're set up for the future, or at the very least the present. So to really reach out into the community, ask questions about where TARTA service is going, where it needs to go, and how we could create some guidelines to improve the service going forward, especially now that we have the ability to serve new locations, thanks to issue 12. In October of 2022, the TARTA Board of Trustees officially adopted the TARTA Next recommendations. And to give you some background into TARTA Next, we did data collection where we counted on-offs at individual bus stops throughout the system. This map is an example of the types of insights we were able to get from that. So you could see where the larger dots are on the map. that represents locations where there's higher ridership. And then you'll see some spots where there's low ridership. And these are some of the data points that went to inform the service change proposal you're about to see today. So again, it's all part of the TARTA Next initiative. It's worth saying, although the board did adopt the entire TARTA Next package, we'll still be presenting individual packages of service change proposals to the community as we are doing today. So it's not like just because it's in TARTA Next means it's a done deal. That's not necessarily the case. Every time there's specific changes proposed, as we're doing today, we will come forward with a proposal as we are right here. We'll get input, we'll go back and make changes as necessary, and then we will implement piece by piece. So what you'll see with TARTA Next is some new services to new places, and it's really worth putting the spotlight on structural changes. So for the past year and a half, we have been adding service, and it's generally taken the form of additional service on long time routes that have been around for years and years and years. What you're going to start to see starting today is some actual structural changes to the routes themselves. So to kind of think outside the route. And there's going to be some new stuff, some things you haven't seen before, some things you'll certainly have questions about and may want to give some input about, and that's exactly what we're here doing today. So here we go. We're going to go route by route with what the proposed changes are. There's an overview of what the changes are, which I'll describe. There's also some data points for each one, which Sean will describe. And then we'll take your comments for the record at the end. We're not going in numerical order here. We're going kind of in order by biggest impact to the system. So we'll start with the proposed change for Route 32. And what we're proposing for Route 32 is to extend the route to Springfield Township and Holland. That would include new service to Spring Meadow Shopping Center, as well as Orchard Center out near Holloway Road. As part of this change, the route would be simplified. So instead of having two branches like the 32H and the 32R, which operate right now, there would be a single simple Route 32 that would operate via Airport Highway in both directions. This would mean removing service on Angola Road, removing service on Reynolds Road on Route 32, and removing Route 32 service to Southwick. Southwick would still be served by Route 31. The service on Arlington, I can show you this better than I can tell you. The service on Arlington that you see with the dashed red line currently on Route 32R, that would be discontinued from Route 32 and moved to a new route, which we'll get to in a moment. So what you see here is the proposed changes to Route 32. You see the blue line, the thick blue line, which is the proposed new route, including new service to Spring Meadows. And you see the dashed red lines, which are parts of the route we are proposing to discontinue, and in some cases replace with new service. The service level we're proposing for the revised Route 32 is to operate 7 days a week, 365 days a year, every 60 minutes at all times of operation. Route 33, you may be scratching your head saying, wait a minute, there is no Route 33. There is not currently, and we are proposing a completely new route, Route 33. We'll take you through it. What Route 33 proposes to do is improve service in some important places on Indiana in the Junction neighborhood. Route 33 picks up service on Arlington that's discontinued off of Route 32, and also provides some new connections to some really popular destinations for grocery shopping, healthcare, employment, and other activities. It also provides improved service to the Uptown neighborhood directly from the Junction neighborhood, so creating some new connections.
Hey, Neil, I think this slide set might be missing the Title VI components. If you want, I can share my slides.
Yeah, okay, I was wondering about that too. So here, I'm going to stop. I thought that was in here, and then somehow it's not. Thanks for bearing with us here. Sorry about this.
So I'll start with just kind of covering what Title 6 is first, and then you can jump back in.
Okay,
All
there
right.
we go. Thank you.
TARTA is required to ensure its transit service is available equally within the service area to minorities, non-minority residents, and individuals with low income. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits any form of discrimination on the basis of race, color, or national origin. It also requires transit agencies to analyze the potential effects of major service changes. Equity analyses are required regardless of whether proposed changes would be detrimental or beneficial to riders. TARTA defines a major service change as when 25% or more of a route's miles are changed, or whether it is for a particular day of week, or if the route is eliminated. So Neil already discussed Route 32. In this map, we have the ridership sample by bus stop. The larger circles show higher use, and the black and yellow dots show where the ridership was 1 or less per day on average. The main segments being removed from Route 32 are highlighted. The blue means that those segments are served by another route, so riders will have a direct alternative option to connect with the TARTA system. The yellow highlights show where there is not a direct alternative option, but based on the ridership data, these areas in yellow typically have lower ridership. Comparing the fall service with the spring service for Route 32, there is an overall increase in the revenue time. This is the amount of time that a bus is actively providing service, as well as with the revenue distance. For the weekday, there is one less trip, which is likely a result of if the bus starts or ends the day at the hub or at the end of the line. Complimentary TARP service is available three-quarter miles in any direction from the fixed line. With this service extension, there's also an increase in the service area for TARPs as shown in the map. All right, Neil, if you want to go back to talking about Route 33.
Okay, thank you, Sean. We could use your presentation. Apologies for that. So yes, Route 33 is a proposed totally new route that does make some new connections. And here's what it looks like. So of course, this doesn't show all the bus stops, but it shows the major anchor points on the proposed route, including the hub, Uptown, Junction neighborhood, and some new destinations that would be directly accessible from the core city, including Save-A-Lot, UT Health Sciences campus, Walmart, and Kroger on Glendale. So a totally new proposed route. This route here, the Route 33, we are proposing to run every 60 minutes on weekdays, every 90 minutes on weekends, which is the standard service level. And it's important to note that this service level would mean 3 times as much service on 3 important segments. So compared to the current service on Indiana, on Spencer, and on Arlington, this proposed route would run 3 times as much service as is currently available on the existing routes. Okay. All right, Route 28. We are proposing to discontinue Route 28. As we'll go through in a second, Route 28 has extremely low ridership, and the parts of the route that do have higher ridership, we are proposing to pick up on the new Route 33 with significantly more service. So Indiana, for instance, while Route 28 would be discontinued, Indiana itself would enjoy 3 times as much service on the proposed route. In terms of Route 28 and how it fits into this, as you'll see kind of toward the end, this entire package kind of is a series of routes that all come into contact with each other. So as we kind of make improvements to one route, what is the effect on other routes? And this is kind of how Route 28 enters the mix. As you can see here, this is a list of all the routes in the TARTA system and the amount of ridership they get. So what we've done here is sorted this by boardings per hour. What that means is every hour a bus is in service on the street, if you look in the right column, that's how many people are boarding. So actually you see at the top of the list are some of the east side routes. So Route 14, for instance, every hour a bus is on the street on Route 14, almost 29 people board. And then toward the bottom of the list, we see Route 28. Every hour a bus is on the street, it's carrying not even 4 people. We see Route 3 at the very bottom of the list, which we're working to address in an upcoming round of changes. Not this time, but that'll be in an upcoming package. Sean, you're muted.
Yep, thank you. Here again, we have the ridership sample by bus stop. Larger circles show higher use, and the black and yellow dots show the ridership where it was 1 or less per day. Excluding the TARTA Transit Hub, most of Route 28 AB ridership occurs along Bancroft, which is also served by Route 22, as well as Dorr, which is served by Route 5. The yellow highlighted areas show where segments will lose direct service options. On average, these areas have very low use. The section along Indiana will be covered by the new Route 33, as mentioned earlier.
And what we're doing here, this kind of brings it to life a little bit in terms of what this change means in context. So what you see here is the current Route 28 kind of in isolation. This is what the route does if it was the only route on the road. And you see it connects some important places. It serves some busy streets. So this is the route in its current form. And what you can see here starting to take shape is other routes that it comes into contact with, which we show in this kind of light gray. So you can see, as Sean mentioned, where it overlaps with Route 5 on Dorr, it overlaps with Route 22 on Bancroft, and yeah, you can even see those numbers here. So there's almost every section of Route 28, certainly the ones that are getting ridership, are served by another route, and the stretch on Indiana, we are proposing to pick up with the proposed new Route 33, which again runs 3 times as much service as the current Route 28. So notice that theme of 3. Route 33, 3 times as much service on Indiana and on Spencer and Arlington as well. There are a handful of stops that would not be directly served by any route in this scenario. So you see what we've done here is gathered ridership data for stops that would have service discontinued completely. And you see that with the exception of the top 3 stops on this list, the majority of these stops don't even serve 1 person a day on average. So City Park and Belmont, for instance, on an average day, the entire day, that stop serves 1/2 of a person. What we've also done is measured how close it is to an alternative stop. So for instance, that Smead and Pinewood, for instance, that stop would lose service, but it's just about 500 feet from Route 5. So there are alternatives available at stops that aren't directly served by another route. This is kind of a quick way to see some of the new locations accessible with the proposed service. So on the left side, where you see all the locations, those are major destinations. You see which ones are served by Route 28, and that hollow circle there for Uptown means some trips. So certain trips of Route 28 serve that, not all of them. If you look over to the far right column, the blue discs, you can see where every major destination served by Route 28 is also served by Route 2, Route 5, or Route 22, which are not proposed to change. You can also see in the middle, the green column, there are some completely new destinations made accessible by the proposed Route 33 directly from Junction neighborhood. So if you're starting in Junction with the proposed service, there would be direct 1-seat service to a whole list of places that right now require a transfer. Okay. Finally, Route 34. So this one is a fairly small, a fairly small proposal. We're proposing to simplify this route. Right now, it splits in the middle. It travels via Detroit in one direction and via Arlington and Spencer in the other direction. With the proposed addition of the new Route 33, we're proposing to run Route 34 in both directions on Detroit. So it's simpler service. We're not proposing to make any changes to the days or hours or frequencies, simply a minor routing change in the middle to make it easier to follow and use. And you can see what that looks like here. So the blue line indicates the proposed routing, looks very similar to the current routing. And that dashed red line on Arlington and Spencer would come off of Route 34, but would be served by the proposed new Route 33.
Comparing the fall service with the spring service for Route 34, there is no change to the number of trips or the revenue time. There's minimal change to the distance due to the difference between the inbound and outbound segments.
All right. So once again, we've gone through the routes individually, which is always useful to do. And after walking through them one by one, it's really valuable to see how they all kind of fit together. So we've addressed these 4 routes individually, and you can see how working with them as a group helps us do a few things. It helps us get to Spring Meadows for the first time. It helps us improve service to Junction neighborhood. It helps us simplify service in an area where routes split right now, and start to take steps toward improving other routes. So we're kind of laying a framework here to start working on some other routes, figuring out what to do about other lower ridership routes like the 3, and starting to improve service where ridership is higher, and really starting to expand to some of those places that we've heard from customers we need to go, and now we can. So here's the big picture of all 4 of these routes. You can see Route 28 dashed out there in red, as that's proposed to be discontinued, but you could also see the alternatives quite clearly. The routes in color, green and blue, are also proposed to change as part of this package. And then I know they're a little hard to see, but there's some gray routes there that are existing routes like Route 5, Route 27, that aren't proposed to change as part of this package.
For the purpose of Title VI, we look at the minority rate and low income rate for the census tracts affected by the change in service. If the service change affects the minority or low income population by more than 20%, TARTA's policy to implement mitigation efforts kicks in. The first 3 rows here show the change in service for the system as a whole. This is less than a 1% decrease. With the proposed service expansion into Springfield, Holland, the affected census tracts have a lower minority and low income rate than the current service area, which resulted in a slight decrease. For the next 3 rows, we're looking at Route 32. The minority rate decreased by about 4%, and the low income rate decreased by about 2%. Next, for Route 32, it has a small decrease in rates as well. With the removal of Route 28, it is noteworthy that the minority rate and low income rate are significantly higher than that of the service area. As presented earlier, there are a number of alternative route options along and or near Route 28. And with the route discontinuation, the segments that would lose service have shown to have little or no ridership. The only note for the new Route 33 is that it does have a very similar rate, has very similar rates as Route 28, but this is just a coincidence.
All right, so that is the proposal. What we'll do now as part of the public hearing process is record comments, statements on this, and then once we reach kind of the end of formal comments, which is a one-way process, so we can get them on the record, then we're happy to stick around for some more interactive question and answer. So with that, are there, and Sam, maybe you want to jockey this on the participation side. If there are formal comments, statements, please state those for the record. State your name, the city or township or village you live in, and your comment regarding the proposal. And then when we get through all the comments, we'll do an interactive question and answer.
Okay. I see a couple questions in the Q&A. I am curious, I suppose, if, and maybe this would be a question for Lucas, our IT side of things on the host, if can attendees actually,
Go on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're looking for attendees to speak. I mean, we could allow them all to talk if that's what you're looking for. Otherwise, it would be all through the Q&A as
Okay.
the webinar.
And we do have a few of those. I guess, Neil, I mean, you're kind of differentiating between a comment and a question. I don't see any comments, so I have a couple questions. Do we want to go into the Q&A portion?
I suppose we can.
Yeah, and throughout both comments and questions are welcome.
Great. Okay, I'm in the Q&A section and I'll go in order here. So I see Rebecca asked, when will TARTA go into Oregon?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Great question. We definitely have a framework to add service to Oregon as part of TARTA Next. In order to do this in a way we could get all the service out there and sustain it, we're going in pieces. So this first package does get to Spring Meadows, and we're looking forward to a next package, which should be within the next year or so, that would propose service to Oregon. So that is on the horizon. It is not part of this package, but it is in the TARTA Next framework. So stay tuned and expect to see a similar proposal for service to Oregon within the next year.
Okay. Just for the record here, I was going to attempt to type those in, and that was not possible with my skill level of typing. Neil, you answered that great. I just could not type it that quickly. So good thing we're recording the meeting. That's great. Okay, that was the Oregon question. We had an anonymous question with the 32 changing. How will all the seniors who ride the bus from Pilgrim Port, Reynolds Senior Village, and Lakewood Senior Apartments get safely to a bus?
Okay. Yeah. So on Angola and in that area, we looked at ridership on Angola, and similar to the stops we found on Route 28, we found minimal usage on the stops on Angola. So if there are customers who are eligible, that area is still within the footprint of the fixed route service. So if there is a disability preventing someone from using the service, they may be eligible for TARP's service. And if not, the fixed route service is still available on Airport Highway, which is very close to Angola.
And also, we'll be introducing a microtransit service coming next year, in the beginning of next year. And there will be an option for senior riders as well.
Great. Next comment here in the Q&A box is from Amy Burgess. Thanks for saying hi, Amy. Hello. You have a couple questions down below. I'm going to get to those in just a second. But first, from Dennis, when will the Route 33 timetables be published?
Thank you for the question, Dennis. We're schedulers at heart, so anything that asks us about a schedule is always a welcome question, as are all of these. We are working through details now. We don't want to get too far along before we have comments from the public. So as we continue with the public outreach process, we'll keep drilling down on those timetables. If this is approved, if the public likes what we're presenting and our board approves the whole package, we would then release those timetables probably around February or so, middle of February.
Okay, great. A different Amy asks, what major employment sites are taken into consideration for new routes? If I'm not mistaken, Flower Hospital and St. Charles are not possible to go to. Also, are parts of Maumee now opened up? I missed the first few minutes of this presentation, so I may have missed something.
Great question. Major employment sites are a huge input to any of these proposals. In terms of Flower Hospital, it's not part of this package, but we mentioned some of the improvements we've made over the past 2 years or so. We did extend 2 routes to Flower Hospital that did not previously have service. So Flower Hospital in Sylvania is now accessible on Route 2 and Route 5. And those are fairly new additions to the system. They're also accessible right now via the Call-A-Ride service, and that will evolve into microtransit service starting next year. Microtransit is a similar type of service. It's flexible. You can get it either by calling or via an app, and you could book it in advance as you do Call-A-Ride, or you could even do it within an hour of when you want the ride, and we can get to a place like Flower Hospital. The zone for that service includes Maumee in its entirety. So spots in Maumee will be accessible with the microtransit service, as they are now accessible with Call-A-Ride. As for St. Charles, that's something that we'll get to with the next package of proposals, which will probably be when we start looking at Oregon in the next year or so. I should say we're already looking at it, and we're gathering notes and input from the field. And once we have that ready to present to the public, that's when you'll see some specific proposals to get to St. Charles.
Thanks. Back to Amy Burgess. I live out in Swanton, but I work in Toledo. I think that it is great that you were able to get into Holland and expand into the Glendale, Detroit area more. Thank you, Amy. Another question here from Amy. What are your plans to expand more in Sylvania and Maumee?
Yeah, thanks for that. Largely in those areas, the microtransit service will provide that real kind of customized level of connection. So both of those areas, again, have recently seen some fixed route improvements with Route 2 and Route 5 going to Flower Hospital. We also extended, this was almost 2 years ago now, we extended Route 31 to travel into Maumee. So it serves downtown Maumee. It goes down the Illinois kind of Ford Street industrial corridor. So there is some fairly new service to Maumee on the fixed route side, and it also has the what will become the microtransit service starting in January. So there's quite a few new opportunities in both Sylvania and Maumee.
Great. Rebecca asks, will there be a bus to Copper Moon, which is at 8007 Airport Highway, 8007?
I just looked it up. It's in the Holland area. So that will be covered by the microtransit zone that we're starting next year. We don't have current plans to get a fixed line bus, but we'll have it ultimately covered by the microtransit.
And let's expand on that a little bit. That is 8007 Airport Highway. I pulled it up too on a map. That's why I'm looking the other way. That is not quite a mile beyond the reach of the Route 32 extension. So the way these services work, you could use both of them together. Say you're coming from Toledo, downtown, or closer in, you could take Route 32 to the end of the line, which will get you most of the way to Copper Moon, and then connect with microtransit to get that last mile from Route 32 to Copper Moon. So you kind of see how these services work together, and that's a great example. So I've never been to Copper Moon. I see it's an art gallery with 46 5-star reviews on Google. So maybe we should all check it out. But it is definitely accessible through this whole family of services that we are proposing to add, or preparing to add in the case of microtransit.
Amy Wexler says your phone agents are always full of good info when I need help. Just FYI. It's great to hear.
Good info is a great thing to be full of.
It's true. It's true. So true. Dennis asks, for the Maumee microtransit zone, will the Plate 21, Detroit and Rugby, still be available for the microtransit service?
You want to take that, Sean?
So for the microtransit service, there'll be sort of two categories of options. One will be for the general riders, and we'll have an expanded option for seniors and people with disabilities. For seniors and people with disabilities, that area will be accessible. I believe Plate 21, pull it up. Yeah, it's in Toledo area. So that'll only be available for the seniors and people with disabilities in that expanded option, but not for the general riders.
Great. Thank you for that. Amy Burgess, our client here from the Site Center often have our clients here from the Site Center have low vision, and TARTA is often not an option. TARTA/TARPS is one of their main source of transportation. One of their main frustrations is that TARTA mainly stays in the Toledo area, but if they have doctor appointments outside of Toledo, they can't reach them. Medicaid cab limits 20 round trips unless a CSM adds more. That appears to be a comment, so we're going to keep going with another question. With Coloride and microtransit, what forms of payment are accepted? Is there any qualification requirements like TARPs?
For Colorado microtransit, they still accept the normal payment options that the regular fixed route does, cash and credit card. For the microtransit, we will have something similar to the TARPs. If you're senior or you're already eligible with TARPs, you'll be able to use the expanded zone. For a typical rider, there's no qualification requirements.
Okay. Sorry, I'm reading ahead. I shouldn't do that. Simple question: when will TARPS expand its service?
So TARPS is a complementary service. It's based off of ADA, so it's always going to be based off of the 3/4 mile buffer around the fixed line. So whenever a fixed line expands, that's when you'll see TARPS expand.
And you are seeing some TARPS expansion as part of this fixed route expansion. So with Route 32 proposed to extend into Springfield Township and Holland area, that will take TARPS with it. So again, to echo Sean, TARPS goes specifically where fixed route goes, within 3/4 of a mile. So as fixed route expands, so does TARPS.
Okay. Question here: will the 44X ever come back? The service on River Road was helpful, especially where Colorado doesn't service.
The package does not recommend that particular service or route. That being said, every time we do a round of specific service changes, when we get to something that does kind of target that area, River Road, please give more input when we get to that set of routes. But right now, this package does not address that area.
Amy Burgess says the suburbs city councils, taxes and such make it more challenging to the point of being a barrier for people who live in the city and need services outside of the Toledo area. I can see that you are working hard and have significantly improved the route into Holland. This is a great start. And then seeks to clarify there, probably from the previous question. Amy says, sorry, clarify, our clients can't use TARTA because of mobility. They can use TARTA. Maybe go back up and I'll try to clarify that. And Amy Wexler asks, maybe, what a great question. Even perhaps to wrap it up, no rush. If anyone has more, feel free. But Amy Wexler asks, will we be able to access this presentation or recording? Please let us know how and where. I'll share it with my colleagues. Thank you.
Yes, this recording is being recorded. We'll try and get it posted to the TARTA website as soon as possible within the next week or two.
We also have another meeting. This meeting here is one in a series of 3. So we did one, I think last week. We're doing this one, and we have another one in person on Friday at the end of this week. So please spread the word. We want to get as many voices as possible in the room. So yeah, share the recording, or better yet, let your colleagues know that we are meeting in person on Friday to go over this very proposal. So we'd love to see them there.
Great. Amy clarifies it was TARPs from the previous comment. And then Rebecca asks, will the 20 trip pass be brought back on TARPs, and will the bus fare go up?
If I remember correctly, the 20 trip pass wasn't a discounted pass, it was just a bundle more. So you can buy as many passes as you want at once. And in terms of the fare, currently we don't have any plans to change the fare structure as is. We're looking to go to the board next month to finalize and approve the fare structure as it currently is.
And Becky chimes in, Team TARTA member, by the way, the 20 trip pass was discontinued. Okay. We are winding down. Amy Burgess, this is a great start. Keep up the great work. Thank you. What an encouraging chat box we got going.
Yeah, and Amy, if we could put a little more emphasis on what you said. Thank you for recognizing, and we'll say this and keep saying it. That's exactly what this is. This is a start. With TARTA Next and the efforts we've been working on, we are kind of looking at a 10-year time frame. We're not going to be able to do it all at once, and we're looking for starting points and pieces we could take one at a time until we eventually build up to something that really is starts with a good system and makes it a great system. So thank you for recognizing that, and you'll be seeing us again with more pieces of the pie.
And since Neil is kind of ad-libbing here a little bit off of the comments, I'll add one more thing. And Amy, I think we've had some conversations with I believe the new director at the site center, Tim. I would, just encourage some more conversations there. I think the microtransit development is super exciting for all different Lucas County residents, but certainly, people with disabilities. I think there's a really interesting opportunity there. And your comments kind of spark some potential conversations that we could have with the site center to continue that, evolution of how residents in Lucas County travel and access everything that TARTA has to offer. In particular, the comment that that any particular client or member of our community can't use TARTA, which I think you mean fixed line. We would want to really try to work through that and do everything we can to make sure that if there are barriers there, that we overcome those. So again, I know it's tough, to communicate this way through a chat like this, but it would be good to have more conversation. So I invite that. And that's true for everyone on the call, on the meeting as well, obviously. Okay, because I keep talking, we're getting more questions, which is nice. I'm gonna be here till 11. Let's just keep it rolling. Amy says, yes, Holland was a big area that needed attention. I worked over at Zeph on Central and had a lot of clients who lived over in Holland. They were frustrated with Holland being a dead zone. Yeah, issue 12, down with the dead zones. Well, that was a nice outcome. Rebecca asks, how far will TARTA go in Holland?
Well, there's all three types of service that will be available in Holland. So the Route 32 will extend to Orchard Center, which is at Airport Highway and Holloway Road. So that's available to everyone, of course, as a fixed route. Within 3/4 of a mile of that Route 32, TARPS service will be available. So that gets some level of TARP service to Holland. And then the new microtransit service, which is a flexible service that serves all destinations, will be all over Holland. So if you're traveling within Holland, you could use the microtransit service. And if you're coming from or going to somewhere, say, east of 475, you could connect to microtransit from the fixed route service.
Amy comments back, TARPS is often easier for them because they don't have to wait outside as much. The TARPS bus is smaller and such. Yeah, totally understand. It's gonna be exciting to see how all of this continues to evolve over the next, well, in pretty short order, quite frankly. Any other, can we please have a copy of this presentation? Sean, let's hit on that again, how the presentation is gonna get sent out.
Yes, this presentation is being recorded. Once it's all packaged together, we'll get it posted on the TARTA website. It'll be on the same page as the public meetings announcements.
Do we caption it too in the video recording or not? We can ask Lucas. Okay.
I'll have to check.
Okay. Next meeting. Amy says, sign me up for the next meeting. How does that happen?
The next meeting is in person. That will be at the TARPS facility on Friday, the 16th at, I want to verify.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. Thank you.
Yep. Amy Wexler recommends that we include OOD in our news emails. Amy, I'd love to think about a good contact there to even make sure we're as aligned as possible. But yeah, we can certainly do that. And the other Amy, we got a little Amy thing going here, which is nice. Yes to OOD, Area Office on Aging, good partner of ours. We work with them in a lot of different ways as well.
Great.
Okay. All right. I think there's no other questions, although this has been great. Great attendance, great participation. Thank you very much to everyone involved.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you.
As I give it a quick pause for another question or comment, I'm going to say thanks to Sean and Neil, the dynamic duo on the slides. I don't see anything. Thank you, everyone, really, for the participation. And I think we are done.